The bodily autonomy argument, put in crude form, is it's my body. Keep your hands off. I'm so sorry. This is so, what in the world? You talk about providence. Look what I was sitting on. Life is Best, a new 13-episode TV show. You can watch it if you go visit lifeisbest.tv. You can see the listings of where and when it will be airing, because Scott Klusendorf puts together all of the arguments that the pro-choicers use, and then he goes about the business of dismantling them. One of the arguments that we must contend with is the bodily autonomy argument. It's my body, so I can do whatever I want to do with it. Do you know how to respond to that argument?
Pro-lifers argue that the abortion debate comes down to one question: what is the unborn? And there are some of our critics who would look at us and say, you know, you're right. The unborn are human. They are persons with rights, but they can be killed anyway because a woman has a right to bodily autonomy. In fact, one philosopher made a famous violinist analogy where she argued that just as you wouldn't be required to use your body to support the life of a violinist who's ill, so a mother shouldn't be required to use her body to support her own offspring. Now notice something about this argument. The person making it is not disagreeing with the pro-lifer about the unborn being human. The person making this argument is saying to the pro-lifer, you're right, but it doesn't matter because bodily autonomy trumps the right to life of the unborn. That is not a new argument, but I will tell you something, it's being heard more and more, and if you are a pro-lifer, you gotta know how to respond.
Judith Jarvis Thompson, in her violinist analogy, says this. She says, imagine that you wake up one morning and that you're sewn back to back with a famous violinist. And you find out that during the night, the Society of Music Lovers have kidnapped you because they scavenged the organ donation list and found that you were the only match in the area for this famous violinist. And they're now running his blood through your body, through your kidneys, to help him process what his own kidneys cannot process. He has a kidney ailment that's killing him. And Judith Jarvis Thompson says, if the doctor said to you, it's terrible that this happened to you, I'm sorry that this happened to you, but he will be okay in 9 months, and then he'll be able to process through his own kidneys, and he'll no longer need you. So as bad as it is that this happened, you just have to wait 9 months. She said that this would be if you decided to let the violinist use your body, a nice thing. She actually uses the term Good Samaritan from the Bible. You will be above and beyond the call of duty, but that you're not morally obligated to do this. And in the same way, even though we can all acknowledge that the unborn are valuable human beings, the same as a violinist is a valuable human being, that the unborn have no more right to your body than that violinist does. And if you choose to carry the child to term, you are doing a good Samaritan deed, above and beyond the call of duty, but you're not morally obligated to do that. A Samaritan of just a normal quality doesn't have to do the extremely good thing of allowing the child to use her body. And so in this way, she says we can acknowledge the humanity of the unborn, while at the same time acknowledging the right to the woman to abort the unborn.
Got the picture? You wake up in a hospital bed, you're attached to a world-famous violinist back to back, he needs your body so he doesn't die, and the argument goes that just as you wouldn't be required to use your body to support his life, so the mother isn't required to use her body to support the unborn's life. That's the argument. Let's break it down.
Now, arguments by analogy are fine. It's nothing illegitimate by arguing by analogy, but we start to attack an analogy by attacking the parallels. You see, it says in the same way. But is it the same way? Are the unborn and the violinist alike? And is the relationship between the mother and the unborn child and the stranger and the violinist the same? Well, there's obviously problems that you see right from the start. See, a mother has obligations to her child that she doesn't have to strangers. I have obligations to my own children that I don't have to strangers that I meet. Any person that I meet here in this area, if I ran into them on the street and then I went home and had no idea where they were, if something happened to them after the fact, nobody would come to me and say, Mr. Watts, why did you allow that person that you ran into the street to fall into a bad situation? Why didn't you take care of them? Why didn't you take them home with you? But if I left my children here on this bridge and then went home without accounting for their well-being, I could be arrested. Everybody would understand that I had done something wrong. Why? Because we understand that I have obligations and duties to my kids that I don't have to runners or joggers that you may have seen coming up and down this bridge. If I leave and something happens to them, it has nothing to do with me. If I leave my own children on this bridge and walk away, I've done something wrong. You see, we have moral and obligations and duties to our kids that we just don't have to other people.
Don't miss what was just said. According to the violinist argument, a mother has no more duty to her own child than she does a stranger who is unnaturally hooked up to her. That can't be right. Let's see what else goes foul on this argument.
Now, Judith Jarvis Thompson will say, I only have those obligations when I agree to them. She'll say, I only have those obligations and duties to my children when I've decided that they are human in the same way they are, when I take them home from the hospital, for example. But the strength of the argument is supposed to be that she says, I accept your view of the value of human beings, but I reject the obligation that a woman has to carry that child to term. But if she believes that we as human beings only have obligations to those other human beings that we accept, then we only are responsible and duty-bound to other human beings when we acknowledge those duties. Well, if she sees that's what humanity is, well, she doesn't accept that what I believe about humanity, because I believe I have duties and responsibilities to everybody, but most especially to my own children.
So there you have it. According to the violinist argument, I am only obligated for those things I voluntarily assume responsibility for. But that can't be right. We hold dads responsible to pay child support whether they volunteer to pay it or not. They still have obligations to dependent children simply because they engaged in an act, sex, that leads naturally to offspring. And the law recognizes the dad's responsibility to his own child in virtue of his relationship to that child. Why should it be any different with the mother?
Talk about providence. That logo matches the logo of the DVD cover.